So the iPhone 15 Pro Max has been on the market for around 9 months, and the Galaxy S24 Ultra has been on the market for about 6 months. This episode, we're going to go ahead and battle these two in my third edition of this speed test to see how they perform now that they've been out for quite some time. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Let's begin with a boot up in 3, 2, and go, and see which one can get there first. Now, we are looking at the Apple A17 Pro chip on the left. A lot of news coming out in this past 24 hours about the A18 series chip coming to all the 16 models. Now, we're facing up against the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 SoC on the right. This is 8 gigs of RAM on the left, 12 gigs of RAM on the right. The iOS platform, the Android platform on the right with the One UI 6.1. You've seen the iPhone turn on a lot faster, and a little bit of a news for you. I am running iOS 18 Beta 2. I know that's going to make some people say this isn't fair, and while it might not be totally fair that we're comparing a beta with the official, this is going to showcase how well the iOS 18 beta is performing. We'll do more official comparisons as well in the future. I'm doing this one for fun though. Let's go. All right, so when generally scrolling through the platform, you'll see that there's no real issue whatsoever here on iOS 18 Beta 2. And I was contemplating if I even wanted to do this, but after seeing how well it's performing on Beta 2, I think it's just fine to create a speed test third edition here. You'll see right here, Control Center is all new, cleaned up, also running pretty good. Now, when you go ahead and try to add stuff, just like all other iPhones, hold on, hit the plus icon. Just like all other iPhones, if you try to add in the control here, it's a little bit slow on that. So that's the only thing. But other than that, you know, when you change icon colors, they can turn white. Generally running through this software, it's just fine. Seriously, as 120 Hertz still feels very smooth. Going over here on a Samsung, they finally have a Samsung phone that literally performs near flawless all the time. So basically that's good. Now when going through these, you can see very smooth. Of course, this is official software. If we go ahead and try to add icons here, let's see how this performs. So this is pretty smooth. This is probably how the iPhone will look in a few more betas. And you can see very good in the settings department, no problem. So overall, the S24 Ultra performing slightly better, especially in their control quick panel area versus Control Center. But other than that, you know, these are running about the same day-to-day in general performance. All right, so here we are at the app test. Everything closed out on the left, everything closed out on the right. Let's go back to that page, and we'll begin with calendar. And you can see a little faster animation on the right, but nothing too serious. I do believe I have True Tone on. Let me turn that off. Actually, I don't. The whites are just a little bit different on both. Let's go into clock, and you'll see I think the animation on the Samsung is still faster. Apple is retaining their smooth looking animation. They didn't really speed that up in iOS 18. I wonder if that'll change. I don't think it will. Samsung, they're faster in the calculator because this looks about the same as it did prior to before. Now you do have this ability to see all your numbers when you're adding up, just like you could do with Samsung before. But now you can do it on the iPhone, and you do now have a history section as well. Samsung puts the history over here, so pretty similar overall now. Definitely nice to see that Apple finally brings history to the calculator, and you can see multiple calculations. That's good at least. Let's go to their respective news apps, and you can see Samsung loads their news app faster than Apple, so that was quicker on the Samsung. And we'll head up out of here, and let's go into Play Store, App Store. And the Play Store launches faster than the App Store. That was a pretty good margin. Let's head up out of here. And let's go into Instagram. And you can see faster on the right. Now, these apps, these third-party apps, shouldn't be a real big issue on either because iOS 18, let's go over here. These apps have already been well developed for the iPhone for a while, so it hasn't really changed much. Looks like the Samsung just showing its similar performance that I've seen in Speed Test version 2 that I did a while back, months ago, Jetpack. It's just got quicker animations, it's very fast. Game mode turns on here, and Samsung launching this first. Yes, Jetpack Joyride first to the Samsung. So far, Samsung winning it all. Taking it home here for the Samsung fanboys. Or we should say, they actually have a name. They're Samsung Knights is what I've heard in the comments. Let's go into Groupon here. and it's faster on the right. And I'm not mad about this. The Galaxy S24 Ultra should be faster. I mean, it did come out after the fact. It came out a few months after the iPhone, so you would expect it to be a little quicker. And so far it's showing that. We'll go to Amazon, quicker on the right once again. And maybe, let's go into Subway Surfers. Maybe the iOS 18 is slightly slower. No, faster, shut me up right there. See, faster on the left for Subway Surfers. I just think Samsung launches apps faster. And a lot of people will say, well, they'll see how that performs in a few years. Bro, this is not 2015. Samsung phones stay fast throughout now. Like, you can use the S21 Ultra, S22 Ultra right now. It performs fine. This is not 2014 anymore. You know what I mean? Like, these chips are powerful. They last a long time. It doesn't matter if you're on the Galaxy or on the iPhone. Let's go into Temple Run 2. Now, if we're talking about Galaxy A series phones, cheapy processors, stuff like that, of course, those phones are not going to hold their own. But the flagship line, the S line, will do fine here. And you can see Temple Run pretty much locked in even. One thing to note, though, is that if this is how close it is already, I'm only imagining how fast is the iPhone 16 Pro Max going to be, or 16 Ultra, whatever they want to call it. Let's go into Free Fire. Nope, I missed that one. Let me get up out of there, close it out before it loads. Let's go into Free Fire. And you'll see Free Fire, again, launching a little faster here on the right. I think that game mode might be slowing this down just because it like turns on the game mode. And let me go ahead and close these out once again. I want to redo that just because I kind of tapped it first. Let's do it again. Yeah, see, the Samsung just in the lead. Watch it trigger this game mode. Oh, I was already on for this game. Yeah, just quicker for the Samsung here. All around the board on that one. Let's go into PUBG Mobile, more intensive game. And see which launches first here. Game mode turns on. I'm wondering if that, just that slight second is slowing the load. Not really, you could see just fine. And of course, there are a lot of games on the App Store that you can't get on the Play Store. And there's a lot of games on the Play Store you might not be able to get on the App Store. So that was faster on the left for the iPhone there for PUBG. So some people will say, well, look, Nick, the most powerful game, and the iPhone loaded it first, so the iPhone wins. Well, maybe. That's how you feel. Let's go into speed test, 3, 2, go. And you can see that one looked faster on the left. This thing is giving me some pop-ups. So I'm going to go ahead and run that again as I was getting some pop-ups on the right. 3, 2, go. Yeah, faster on the left to pop open speed test net. And we'll go on to Geekbench 6. And faster on the iPhone. We'll go into 3D Mark. I think that was a Samsung. It's tough to tell. That was very, very close. Let me know down below in the comments. All right, so as you've seen, all these apps loaded very quick on both powerhouse phones. But it looks like the Samsung's animations are pulling it ahead in most departments. However, that was pretty interesting to see that PUBG, the more powerful game in this whole, it's probably the most hardest to load app in this whole entire test, did load faster on the iPhone. So that's saying something. All right, so let's run back through the applications, see what kind of performance we get. 8 gigs of RAM. It kind of impresses me that you only need 8 gigs of RAM for an iPhone to perform pretty well in terms of the RAM management via, the iOS 18. So we'll see how it goes with the 16 models if they all get 8 gigs of RAM and up. I think Apple's going to put 8 gigs of RAM on all of them, but we'll see if they go 12 on the Pros. That would be kind of nice if they went 12. But knowing them, they could potentially go 8 on the 16s and reserve the 12 gigs of RAM for the 17s, as the 8 gigs of RAM would probably run the Apple Intelligence just fine. So we'll see what route they go. What do you guys want, and what do you guys think is going to happen with that? You think they're going to give us 12 or 8 across the line, or maybe just 8 on the base and 12 on the Pros? All right, here, let's go ahead and run it on the Samsung. So you can see very good. Was that a reload? I don't know. What was that blinking stuff right there? That was not beautiful. So I feel like Apple does a better job than Samsung at kind of like the visuals when you're kind of like going back in. Samsung does a way better job at allowing you to use the power of the Samsung by, having split screens, pop views, real multitasking, decks, and all that stuff. But I think their visuals could use a little work still. They're like a little bit of a visual refinements away from like the top smoothest phone in the world. Quite honestly, they're very, very close, but they're not quite there just yet. But still, you've seen it held most of those applications in the background just fine. We're doing something we've never done here before. We're going to go ahead and do two different AI applications, Microsoft Copilot and ChatGPT. Now, I understand that the Copilot does use the ChatGPT model, but I just want to do them on separate apps just to see how they perform. We're going to ask it the same prompt. So we're going to say, write me a short poem. That's what I'm going to say here. Write me a short poem. And write me a short poem. All right, so let's go ahead and hit send at the same time. 3, 2, go. And see which one could do this quicker. So the Samsung looks like it's in the lead slightly. So you can see both of them can do the AI stuff pretty easily here, especially on these applications, no problem. So now we're on ChatGPT. Plan me a productive day of exercising my legs. So leg day. Plan me a productive day of exercising. Hold on. Exercising my legs. All right. So let's hit send on both or return. Actually, just click these 3, 2, and go. And you can see this one was faster on the iPhone. Now they are kind of like doing a little bit different things, but it seemed to appear quicker. But you could see they're not going to have no major issues here with these AI models. Really, neither of these phones. So Galaxy AI is already built into the Samsung, but you can see the iPhone 15 Pro series can easily handle that stuff. No problem. Even some of the older models can do those applications just fine. That's why I say you don't necessarily need to go with an Apple Intelligence phone just because that's what's being marketed. You can already use AI stuff on basically any of the phones that have the Play Store and the App Store that are relatively powerful. Right, so let's see which one is faster to browse. Let's go to apple.com, 3, 2, go. And you can see nearly identical. Let's learn more about the new M3 MacBook Air. Pretty similar on both. Both very quick. So even on beta 2, you can run it just fine on the iPhone. We're heading over to Samsung.com, 3, 2, go, and see which one is quicker. And you'll see faster on the left, or was it? Wait a minute. It looked like it was quicker on the left. I could be missing that. I'm trying to look at both of these phones at the same time, but you can see generally scrolling through, no major problems. Browsing is going to be a joy on both. I feel like the Samsung is a little bit better though, because I feel like it's a bigger looking screen, especially with the punch hole. It just feels like a little bit of a larger experience, but nothing is out of place. Both of them are very, very strong, large phone browsers. So you're going to be good there. All right. So look at the results here. The Samsung kind of close here in the multi-core, but loses out in the single core. So even though we're on a beta here, iOS 18 beta 2, the iPhone is out benchmarked the Samsung once again. So slightly better performance according to the Geekbench 6 here. But that's not the only test we have. Let's go ahead and run 3D Mark here, Extreme, and we'll see what happens here. Now, historically, the results have been a little bit better on the Samsung than they have on my iPhone. So let me go ahead and hit start here on both, and we'll be back when they're done. So the Samsung has finished this test first, so it's probably going to take the win. We have 4352 on the Samsung device with an average frame rate of 26.07. Now, I'm still waiting on the iPhone for the same test. This is scoring better than 90% of devices, with the iPad Pro M4 definitely performing better than pretty much all devices. So Samsung not quite there, but only 77 on the 15 Pro Max. That's a little bit strange, but it definitely didn't outbench the Samsung here with an average frame rate of 20.7 and 3454 on that result. Now, I want to take a look at some of my older results. You can see on iOS 18, we're getting worse graphics here than we did before, but not much different from the 17.5 version and not too different from 17.4.1. On this test, I did a 4095 and a 24.5. So this can definitely vary. And then on this older test, the 15 Pro Max did better than 88% of devices. So these tests can vary depending on the software, what you were running prior. I feel like I'm getting a little bit worse results because the phone is warmed up from all that testing we were doing already. So it could be different, but definitely they're pretty close in this area as well. It's proven by like this score right here, 24.5 FPS 26, 88%, 90%. But I think it's fair to say that the Samsung definitely does better in 3D Mark, as almost every time I've done this test, it has taken the win. Overall, while the iPhone has a faster chip when it comes to the Geekbench scores, it didn't win in the 3D Mark, it didn't win in the animation launch time, and it doesn't really take as much advantage of its power. No DeX-like modes, no split screen, even on iOS 18. So I'd say that the Samsung with its 12 gigs of RAM, Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, generally feels like a more powerful phone day to day. That's just the bottom line. Even now that we have iOS 18, it still feels that way. The iOS 18 feels like a nice customization enhancement. But overall, I gotta say that I'm really looking forward to seeing how the 16 Pro Max performs against the S24 Ultra, because I think it's gonna take the crown once again. But that's my speed test version 3 on these two. This is probably the last one we'll do until we do speed test against the 16 Pro Max versus S24 Ultra. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you on the next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.